Awesome. Welcome to Lipstick and Legacy, a podcast where your story matters and your journey has purpose. Together, we lift and inspire our communities, one story at a time. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Cheryl, can you introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, and where you are now?
Well, my name is Cheryl. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, and right now I'm going to college at Stanford University in Northern California.
That's incredible. I have a couple little icebreaker questions for you. For listeners meeting you for the first time, how do you describe who you are today?
Ooh.
Yeah, these are hard.
These are good. Um, hmm. I would say joyful. I would say, do you want like kind of like words, or should I speak in like just
However you
like
want,
summary?
whatever
Okay,
you feel is right.
cool. Um, I would just say someone that really like loves life and loves people and loves healing and growth.
What do you think of when you hear the word healing? What does that word mean to you?
Hmm. I think healing, I feel like there's different stages of healing. Like I've had moments in my life where I'm in like a very raw healing place where I'm really like down and like in the trenches working through some of, I guess, my inner issues. But I also think healing is something that's like always kind of happening. Even if you're not maybe actively like healing, I think in
Mhm.
every moment, like we're growing and we're learning. And so I still see myself someone as kind of like actively healing, but maybe not like down in the trenches healing, if that makes sense.
So I would say that, like you said, healing's a process. We're always going through some that's being closed up, that's being healed, and maybe a new one that's being exposed. So I think that's a really good way to look at it. So I reached out to you, Cheryl, because I've watched you grow over the years, kind of from a distance. I know your story a little bit, not super deeply, and I don't know how you feel about kind of getting into the actual story. And you may share as much or as little as you feel is appropriate. So you have shared openly about surviving two suicide attempts at 13. What do you remember most about this season of your life?
Mm. I think in that season of my life, I just, I mean, when you're that low, like I definitely remember just feeling so hopeless and just feeling like things were never going to get better, that I was always going to feel the way I felt. I think I had a lot of negative thoughts about like who I was as a person. I just thought like I was a bad person, that I didn't like deserve to be here on this earth. And we can get into like the deeper reasons of why I felt that way. But I think I also, though, when I look back at that time now, like obviously in the moment it was really painful, but looking at it now, I also see it as like the most transformative time
Mhm.
of my life, and something that while like I feel sorry like for my parents and the people around me that had to like go through that experience with me, I also think so much transformation and healing, as we talked about, like came from that experience. So when I look back on it, I feel a lot of, I think, gratitude. Like just grateful to be alive and be able to have done the work that I've done.
So you mentioned you said, and we can get into that. What puts you at that age? Now, a lot of the listeners that we have children, have teenagers, and they may be dealing with this as an adult, or they may be dealing with it as a child or a friend that's dealing with this. What led to you being in that spot? Was it home life? Was it things around you? Was it your own self awareness and, fear? What really put you in that position to be laying in a bed in a hospital at 13 years old? What put you there?
I think there were a lot of things, kind of to your question, like all of the above. I think there was definitely, like, I grew up and I love both of my parents very deeply, but they struggled a lot when I was younger and had a lot of mental health issues themselves, were like struggling with substance use disorders and So I kind of grew up in a chaotic, like home life environment. And specifically, I had a really codependent relationship with my dad. And I'd grown up really feeling kind of like the parent or the caretaker in that situation where I felt like I had to kind of be this perfect daughter, be my dad's like everything to help him not like harm himself. He was like very actively like sharing his suicidal thoughts with me at like a very young age. And so it was hard for me to, my dad was like my whole world. And so I grew up thinking, okay, like my job is to like make sure my dad is okay and to take care of him. And when I kept seeing my dad struggle like over the years of my childhood, I think it was kind of like a slow fade of just like slowly ate away at like my sense of self and sense of worth because I felt like I couldn't, if I can't even help my dad, then like what's the point?
But as a child,
And so I
you
think
were forced into a parent role almost over your helping your parents. It sounds like a little bit like you were managing your parents, especially your father, trying to make sure he was okay while you're still a child trying to deal with just surviving.
yeah, exactly. And I had just such a, we had such a close, my mom was pretty like absent during like my earlier childhood and then when my parents were separated my whole life. And so I was primarily from like 8 to 13 I was like with my dad pretty much like full time after like a custody battle between my parents. And so in that like I think in that window is when it I guess felt the most heavy or the most intense where I felt like I was really like taking care of my dad in an emotional sense. Um and I think on top of that, you're just, I mean, 13 is just like a weird age.
Mhm.
And I was like going through puberty and like, experiencing, I think, what are normal teenage feelings, but they're really intense and like feeling not like comfortable in my own skin and in my body and not having like all this other stuff that was going on like in my home life. But then add to that just like the normal kind of teenage
Awkwardness.
experience.
Yes. And thinking everything is so big. My hair doesn't look right, or I don't like this outfit, or those things that seemed so big at the time, you probably look back and go, what was I even worried about with that
Yeah.
situation? Um, what was the moment that you realized, I don't want to die, I want to live? What changed your trajectory? How old were you? Can you describe the experience if you remember it?
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of ties into your previous question too of like what brought me to that low place. And I would say out of everything, even like take away the like relationship with my dad and like my home life and even like just going through like middle school and transitioning into high school, like I think for me, the biggest struggle was just like my own thoughts and feelings in my head, like about myself, about life. And I think as human beings, we all kind of have that like negative voice in our head that likes to, you know,
Mhm.
really like criticize ourselves, criticize others. And mine just happened to be very, very, very strong. Um, and I remember when I was in the psychiatric hospital after my second suicide attempt um, this guy named Ryan who runs the Inspiring Children Foundation. I had like been briefly introduced to him before that, and he was like one of the first people in my life that first adults really in my life that I felt was just very stable, very wise, but I was still struggling at this point. Like it didn't, our first meeting was really helpful for me, but it didn't necessarily make me want to like do the work and heal and change myself. But I would say after my second attempt, I was in this psychiatric hospital. My parents had come to visit me, and it was probably the lowest I'd ever felt. I was so like kind of disassociated. Like I couldn't look at my parents in the face. I couldn't speak. We're at this like wooden table, and I was just sitting there like this the whole time, like couldn't lift my head from the table. And one of my parents offered to leave the room, my dad to have Ryan come in because they didn't know what to do. And so Ryan came in, started talking to me, tried to like slip me a candy bar. You're not allowed to have like
Mhm.
candy or like literally anything in the psychiatric hospital, and that still didn't really do anything. And I remember it's like a funny story. It's a weird story to tell, but there's a point. But at one point, Ryan pulled out his phone and this person's voice that I recognized started playing on the phone. It was like, "Hey, Cheryl, like, I hope you're doing well." And I was 13 at the time, and Ryan, like, maybe a month before that, had just randomly in conversation, like, asked me who my favorite actors were. Um, and I like lift my head from this table and I'm like looking up into his phone and it's Adam Sandler like talking to me,
Stop
like
it.
saying my name. I was like, and I was so shocked by the whole thing. I was just like, What? Like this makes
What?
no sense. Like, how did this happen?" Um, and it was interesting because he's like cracking jokes and I'm smiling. And I don't like telling that story because it's like, oh, so she got a video from a celebrity and then she was fine. But
Oh, that's not it. No.
that's not it. Like the truth is that in that moment, what Ryan pointed out, he was like, that's it. Like that's the secret to life. Like you can snap out of your negative thoughts and feelings at any point in time. Like I just saw you, witnessed you do it. You're the lowest I've ever seen you. And in seconds, you're smiling and like laughing. And it was the first time in my life that I think I'd experienced like what we would call mindfulness or just like coming into the present moment and snapping out of
Mhm.
my negative thinking. And it's one thing to be like, people will tell you, oh, you're not your thoughts and you don't have to respond to them. And those are very true principles that have been really helpful for me. But I think it's one thing to hear something, but then to like experience it in your own body and be like, whoa, I did like just I totally snapped out of it.
Mm,
And I think in that moment, it showed me it was possible to do that. And the other
wow.
thing was that Ryan was like, and not only are you going to get to heal yourself through that practice, but you're going to be able to heal other people.
I love
And for
that.
me, it was like, okay, like I'm all in.
Wow. That was kind of that transformative moment. Obviously, all the healing didn't happen in that moment, but it was the start to
Yeah.
put your life on a different trajectory. The reason I reached out to you, Cheryl, I usually don't interview people that are young because I do feel like perspective of people who have lived longer seems to, come with a lot of wisdom. But because of your trials, because of your hardships, you have put into motion helping others. And that's what this podcast is about, finding people who have lived through hard things and how they've, made a difference in the world. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Tell me a little bit more about the Inspiring Children's Foundation, what it does, how you're involved. Tell me all about it.
It's the best. It's so awesome. Obviously it like saved my life, changed my life in every way. I think the most unique thing about the program is it's like a wraparound program. It's not just like, okay, let's like give someone a band-aid. It's how do we like completely transform a young person's life? And there's a variety of like, I grew up with a variety of different people from different backgrounds than me. Some were struggling with their mental health very extremely as I was. Others were just like going through the experience of like growing up and becoming a teenager and learning who you are and we have a really good sports program for tennis. And so a lot of the people, I grew up playing tennis. That's how I learned about it. And a lot of my friends wanted to be, Division 1, like college athletes or even pro athletes. And so I was surrounded by a really like awesome mix of young people in this environment. But I think what was special is that at the core, like the foundation does mental health work. It helps people learn that exact principle that I learned in the hospital is like, how can you snap out of your negative thoughts and feelings, like live in the moment, be present, and then be able to show up to life from that place of just like love and groundedness and joy. And not meaning that we have to be joyful all the time, of course. Like I feel sad sometimes, I get anxious sometimes, but being able to, I think, better regulate and manage those feelings and
Hmm.
not let them spiral like out of control. Uh,
Yes.
but
One
for
thing
me,
I
it was,
noticed
oh, go
about the
ahead.
foundation, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, is that it's a all immersive program. It's not something you guys show up and do once a month or once a quarter. It's a daily practice of being with these people, this group of people. You had talked about a man named Ryan. He's, I would say, the founder of the Inspiring Children's Foundation, and his work with the children and the kids in it is it's just unmatched and the type of work that they do. One thing that I noticed that the foundation does is teaches the children how to put on big events, how to organize, how to sell tickets, how to find the food, how to raise the funds. And I know from my children's experiences, that has really been very beneficial in their life. How has the foundation helped you with coming out of your shell, being able to talk to people, all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think that's the one of the most unique parts of the program is I think it really is. It's not just like, okay, how can we like help someone feel better, but it's like how can we help someone not just feel better, but then be able to live their life at like the highest level that they can in every area of life. And so for me, I think going in that program and getting to do the project-driven learning, to learn how to raise money, to learn how to put on events, I think what was unique is I don't think anyone wants to feel like they're being pitied or they're a charity case or like, oh, they only like, I'm being given all of these things. I think it creates like a weird sense of like pity and guilt. Whereas when I was in the foundation, it was like, no, I felt like I was genuinely like earning the support that I
Mhm.
was getting by like volunteering, by doing this hands-on work, and then learning like skills that nobody my age was getting the opportunity to learn in like a traditional like school environment. And
Mhm.
so, and even through that process of like learning how to work, learning how to take on projects, learning how to like play sports and have that discipline that takes, like I was healing through these other modalities that weren't even directly like, okay, we're going to sit down and like, we did do this, like, we're going to sit down and have like peer-to-peer conversations and like therapy. And those are all amazing and have helped me a ton. But also getting to like go out and like do things and create things and have, get triggered in a stressful situation and learn how to like navigate that and manage that is like you said, unmatched. It's just such a cool.
That's priceless. So you talk, it says here Jewel's Inspiring Children's Foundation, and I know that she's been a more recent part of this. Can you tell me about who Jewel is, if people might not know that are younger, and how she's involved and how she's kind of helped you through your life?
Yeah, she's well, for context, she's a Grammy nominated singer-songwriter. She was really her music was very popular in like the 90s. And I actually don't know how because she's not really my generation's like music. But somehow I stumbled upon one of her songs when I was really struggling. It was called Hands. And I would listen to it like over and over again in the hospital. And Ryan had noticed I was listening to like he was like, Jewel's like my generation. Like, why is this girl like listening to Jewel? But it was because the lyrics were so powerful and so meaningful and they spoke to me. I think music has this really unique way of like, I like to say entering the soul without permission.
Mm.
And her music was so healing for me. And later, Ryan found she had written a memoir. And so Ryan gave me her memoir to read. And so I started reading her book. And then I was like, whoa, like
She
her,
has a story. She has a
yeah,
really personal, incredible story and journey. And if people haven't heard or listened to her tell her story, it's fascinating.
yeah, it's incredible. And she had gone through so much, had been to similar lows that I had been at, but also had found her way through and found healing and created that healing like for herself. And so for me, like reading that, I was like, wow, like it made not just like, not only was she like healing me through her music, but then through her words and through her stories and just the life she like lives and has lived, like was inspiring me. So then, like, fast forward, we were like helping put together an event. She happened to be there. And we were at this event with like very, I would say like, there were celebrities and like high network people like at this event fundraiser thing. And she took the time, like out of anyone in the room, to sit with me and talk to me
Mm.
for like when I was 15 years old, like fresh out of like my attempts, to just talk to me for like 2 hours. And
Oh,
out of anyone she could have talked to in that room, she like decided to sit and have that conversation with me. And I think obviously for me going through what I was going through at the time, like that was just an incredible, beautiful experience. But I think it speaks so deeply to like who she is. And ever
it
since
does. Yes.
then, she has been like super involved in the program, has been a personal like mentor to me, not just like indirectly, like through her book and through her music, but like directly through like
Mhm.
conversations and like just taking the time.
So I see here that you have served as president of Stanford's Mental Health Outreach Club. What is that role? What does it mean to you? How did you get involved with that?
Yeah, when I basically like I went through the foundations program, my main focus in high school was just like how do I heal? Like how do I like become like the best version of myself? Like how do I wake up every day with like love and joy or be able to like handle the difficult things that come my way? And so I spent a large portion of like high school just focused on that. So like the fact that I like ended up at Stanford, it was just like very magical. And um, when I came here after my time in the foundation, it was interesting because I had had this unique background where like I was in an environment where mental health, healing, growth, like high performance living, all these things were very normalized. Like I think the culture at the Inspiring Children Foundation is just very much centered that way. And I built so many deep friendships and it was just the norm. And so when I came to college, the norm isn't necessarily like the broader culture doesn't necessarily like encourage you to like let's like heal and grow and be our best selves. And so when I first came, I found myself really lonely, and kind of just trying to navigate like this new world that I found myself in. And the only thing I could think of was like, all right, like I'm just gonna. It actually started with a group chat that I called Wellness Buddies, and I just started going around to like everyone that I would meet, being like, "Hey, do you want to be in my group chat? Like it's called Wellness Buddies, and I just invite people to do like wellness activities with me." And so I just started like recruiting like random people all around campus.
It was just like,
Asking-
and I see that on here. It's just a network that of people that kind of have a safe place to go through a group text and activities that
Yeah,
you founded or co-founded, which is incredible. So what did that
yeah.
transform into?
So it eventually like so it started like that, and then I had like a few people coming, and then um I also was like, okay, I want to seek out like community here because Stanford has a ton of mental health resources, but they're not always super well known or so I was like digging through like anywhere I could find. Like I joined the recovery community. I joined like this mental health and well-being newsletter. And so I was just like filtering in anywhere I could find anything slightly mental health related. And eventually I actually was just last week at a film screening for this girl named Katie Meyer, who was like star athlete at Stanford, like captain of the soccer team my freshman year. And she ended up dying by suicide during
Mm.
my freshman year of college. And I didn't know her personally, but it was kind of, I was doing this wellness buddy stuff and I just started it. And for me, it was kind of like, whoa, like there really is a need for this. And I thought like, man, like I wish I could have met her. Like I wish she would have been in Wellness Buddies and like who knows what would have happened, but it just really got me thinking and really I think inspired me to be like, okay, like I can like people here are suffering and maybe I can make something bigger or make it so like people at least know that this is a resource because me just like going around campus is great, but
Mm.
I wasn't getting as many people that way. And so throughout my whole time at Stanford, I'm in my like fifth year undergrad now, but my whole journey here has been super focused on like how do I like just bring mental health to people here in any way possible. And so slowly, like Wellness Buddies became like affiliated with Stanford Mental Health Outreach, which is like the only like student run like mental health like club on campus. There's a peer
Mhm.
counseling center as well. That's amazing. Um, but I just really started like plan using kind of all the things I learned at ICF, like through their mental health curriculum, but also like through the event planning side and like learning how to like run large scale like mental health events
Organization.
on campus.
Wow.
Um,
That's really incredible. It says here that during the pandemic, you built a Twitch-based mental health community that reached millions. Is that different than Wellness Buddies? Can you tell me a little bit about that? And then I want you to go into your Inspire cards.
yeah, I during my gap years, I took 2 gap years before I went to college, and I stayed with the foundation to just like work and do some like hands-on learning. And basically, during my second gap year, COVID, like quarantine happened. And we were like, okay, like what can we do? Because we have to like shut down our office. We have transitional homes, so our transitional homes were still operating, but people were quarantined within those homes. And um, we were like, okay, we're gonna do live streams. And then we came up with this idea to do a Twitch channel where we would stream basically like the conversations we have in the office every day, like about mental health, about well-being, about growth, and then also like I would lead meditations or workouts or yoga, and I would do this every single day. So every single day I was like on a stream, like we'd start first thing in the morning, we'd do a workout, then we would do yoga. Then we
And
do
this is just like a live
meditation.
stream, just like feeding kind of all day. People could sit and watch this.
Yeah. And it
Hmm.
would be in the morning and in the like afternoon we'd have like mental health conversations and then we would host some like fundraisers and musical events on the platform. And Twitch is really interesting because it's other than the streamer, everyone else is completely anonymous. So the people watching have like fake usernames and you don't know who any of these people are. But there was something really, especially during COVID, people were really lonely, mental health rates were really increasing and people were anonymous, so they felt more, I would say, more comfortable being open and honest about their mental health, about how they were doing. And so I'd have these like super deep conversations with complete strangers, like on the internet in different countries, like no idea. And it was so beautiful, like it was so cool. And I obviously like through Jewel and through like getting like some musical performances and other things,
Wow.
like where viewer count like kept growing, but it was such a beautiful space like during COVID to provide what I've been so fortunate to have for so many years in my life to people who may have never experienced like any sort of community or thing like it.
I truly believe that when you meet somebody, if you think they're having a bad day or you approach them as if their life is falling apart, you're probably right, almost 90% of the time. And I also had my nephew, my sister's son, he took his own life in his early 20s. And so I see how it affects a family. You never heal that hole. It's always there. It's a horrible place for somebody to get to that point, but also for the family, that it affects. Can you tell me a little bit about your Inspire cards?
Yeah, I One of the things that helped me the most in my own like healing journey was just the conversations that I got to have like every day in the ICF like environment. Like every day I feel like I was having super deep conversations with like the people around me, which is like totally not the norm really in any environment, but like especially like middle school, high school age, like I think it's hard to have those more meaningful conversations. And so the idea behind Inspire cards was just like, how can we like make having deeper conversations easier? Because sometimes it's really hard to like navigate small talk. And like me as like a little 13, 14-year-old, like I didn't know how to like make a conversation deeper without it being extremely like intrusive or awkward. And it worked when I was younger because I was all like little and cute. And so people were like kind of disarmed. But I'd go up to someone and be like, so like, what was your biggest regret? Like, and start like asking them really deep questions. And I loved like getting to have those conversations, but then I was like, okay, how can I just make this less awkward? How can I make it easier? And we kind of as a group at ICF like came up with this concept of why don't we make a conversation card game? And I was like, that is a great idea. And then I just like went and did it. So that's like a thing that's been in the works for a while now, but we like play it all the time at our retreats. I've been able to give it to a lot of different people. And it's just been such a cool and effective way of like starting those conversations and not necessarily needing um like a facilitator to always be asking these questions or leading the
Mhm.
conversation.
Or a professional, just it can just be anybody asking these questions.
Yeah.
I think too, one thing I've learned is that asking people questions, being interested in what they say, listening to their answers, and giving them small amounts of encouragement just goes such a long way. You
Yeah.
got this, you can do it. One thing I've been doing is writing cards of kindness. A friend of mine introduced me to it. And every week I sit down and just think of people. It can be somebody at Walmart or a family member or somebody I deeply love. And just tell them the things I love and appreciate about them. And that has just been really transformative for me, for my heart. It's really changed me and helped me find more joy in my life and the people around me. So I can see how those kinds of, projects and games can really help that start those conversations. Your story has been featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show, People Magazine, documentaries, all of these incredible things. I'm sure as a 13-year-old girl, like looking back, did you ever think that that would be your life, that you'd be at Stanford, blah, 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 at Stanford? Like, oh my gosh, that is amazing, by the way. How is having this visibility, how has that changed you, and what good have you seen, and what negative have you seen from it?
Yeah. I think, yeah, obviously I could have, I mean, when I was 13, I didn't think I was going to make it to the next day, let alone like get to do all the beautiful things like I've gotten to do. And largely because of like ICF and all of like the beautiful people I've gotten to meet. Um, so I'm super, super grateful. Never could have, still like to this day, I'm like, what? This is so crazy. But I think it's interesting though, because one of the things that I learned the most when I was going through like the depths of my healing struggle and something I still like constantly hold close to my heart is that for a long time I based my sense of worth out of things like outside of myself, outside of my control. It was always like, I can only be happy if my dad's happy. I can only be happy if this certain thing in my life changes. And one of the big changes for me was being like, no, like I don't need anyone else's, I don't need someone to change. I don't need anything to change in order to give myself permission to like be happy and do the work in my life. And so I think taking that accountability and really not basing my sense of like happiness out of anything like Stanford's amazing. I'm like super deeply grateful for it. But in comparison to like my healing journey and like
I love
ICF
that.
and all these things, like to me, it's very small. Um, and but obviously my life led me here and I'm super grateful for it. I think those opportunities to get to share my story has been really cool. I think everyone should share their story. I think everyone should write. I'm like a huge proponent. I think everyone should write their life story or share their life story. Like I think everyone has like a collection of experiences that have impacted their life and I like similar to the conversation cards, like there's nothing that brings me like more joy or love than like getting to sit across from another human being and like hear about their life and about like their inner world and their struggles and their joys and like just see a human like heal and open up is just unmatched, like the most beautiful thing like in the world. And to get to like have these opportunities to share like a piece of myself with other people is such a gift, but it's a gift because I hope that in doing that, it even just helps one person like be like see themselves in that story or see hope. Because I think a lot of times we talk about mental health now, which is great, but it's not always like a hopeful message. It's like, yes,
Mhm.
we're all struggling and suffering, but like
Great.
where's the like other side? Where's the healing? Like where's the light? And I think my hope in sharing myself is just sharing that like healing is possible. Um, and so these have all been extremely meaningful opportunities, but I think for me, honestly, like the greatest joys are just like the conversations I get to have in like a peer counseling session or with a really close friend or even a stranger that might be like going through a hard time or a great
Those
time.
those experiences talking to people who, on shows and different things, they do give you the experience, but those usually aren't the most meaningful conversations. They're little blips, they're 5 or 6 minutes at the most, maybe 30 seconds, but they do give you experience and they do get to elevate your platform. What would you tell somebody that's 13 or 113 that is in a dark place, that's going through a really difficult time? What would you tell them in this moment? So you had a 30 seconds or 1 minute, you couldn't have a deep conversation. What would you offer them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like healing is possible and the pain is temporary. And honestly, like the deepest pain in my life, like we kind of started off this way, but the deepest pains in my life have become like the greatest gifts of my life. And I've been able to transform them into something so beautiful beyond anything I could ever imagine. And that's not unique to me. I think anyone can do that. And so it might not feel like it right now. And it's hard, like when you're in the midst of deep struggle, to feel gratitude for it or feel like adversity is a gift. But in the long run, it truly is.
I really think that something like the Inspiring Children's Foundation, it's a tool, it's a community, it's there, it's been offered to many people, but not everybody embraces what it can give, right? You can't just go there and sit there and do nothing and get something. Like you have to be, like you said, you were at your breaking point, like, I'm all in. Like, yes, I'm in, I'll do it. Just show me where. It sounds like you were tired of living how you were living and you had to embrace it. And I've seen people in my own life, even, some close to me that they just don't want to put in the time and the work and the effort. And I really feel like you have. You've really used that tool to beautify your life and to expound your platform and to help others, which is truly incredible. What's next for you personally, academically, and in your advocacy?
Well, right now I'm writing a book for my capstone project. Again, I think
You're
saying
amazing. You're
wow, thank
amazing,
you.
girl. Wow.
I'm writing a book for my capstone project, so my like senior year thesis, so to speak, which has been really, really cool. I'm hoping that it'll, hope the manuscript should be done in the spring, and then hopefully I'll like move to trying to publish it in the summer. But that's been a really beautiful process. Again, highly recommend. I think everyone should just try to write their life story. It doesn't
I
have to be
agree.
like a book that they publish. But I do think it's a really like healing and beautiful process. And I feel like in the process, I'm like learning and relearning so many things like about myself and my journey. And um, it's a powerful experience. So that's been really cool. I'm trying to like, it's my last year at Stanford. So I'm really trying to leave all the mental health groups that I'm working with, like to be sustainable for me, for them to be able to flourish and function without my presence. So that's been something that I've been focused on and working on. And hopefully I'll get to, with the book project, my hope is I'll get to like, get the book to people who really need it or might need that sense of hope or light or healing in their life. And yeah,
What are
just
you studying? Like, what's your actual degree?
psychology.
Psychology. So, do you look to further that education and become like a psychiatrist or a therapist of some sort? Like, what's your work for the future in that area?
Yeah, I'm someone I'm also very like go with the flow, like one thing at a time, but I definitely do, like I said, there's nothing that I think brings me more joy than getting to like just sit in front of another human, like human to human. And so I hope I'll get to become a therapist, maybe pursue like a marriage and family therapy degree, or something of that nature. I don't know that I'll do like a ton. I might not go as far as psychiatry. It's a lot of school. And for me, I don't know if that's the pathway, but who knows? It could happen. But yeah, right now I'm thinking on the therapy track.
When somebody hears your name, what do you want them to remember about you?
Mm, I think love. Yeah, loving. I think that's the greatest gift like we can like give other people is just love.
That's really beautiful. I love to when you said that we're on Zoom, which isn't my favorite way to communicate. I do appreciate like an in-person conversation, but I could actually feel you. I felt that. That was kind of unusual. I've never had that happen. And I think it's interesting how we all love differently. Don't, sometimes my kids say, I know you're not a hugger, but we need hugs to feel your love. And I'm like, well, I love you by defending you and by, making you self-sufficient or whatever it is. So that was interesting. I could actually feel when you said that. That was really beautiful. And something I ask everybody on the show, and you are younger, so this is going to change 1,000 times, and that's okay. What do you want your legacy to be?
Mm. I think similar to the love word, I think I'd love to my legacy just to be someone who really just loved people and loved life. And I think when I say love, for me, it means like nurturing. I feel like we all have this like light and this like love inside of us. And we all have this capacity to like love immensely. But sometimes we have to like do the healing work and like show up for ourselves to be able to actually like show up. Like I wasn't able to, I think, fully love my dad until I learned how to like find love within myself. It wasn't something I was like getting, like I couldn't get love from my dad. I had to like create that love for myself and then let it
Mm.
like pour out of me just through my like being, I guess. And so I think my legacy, I hope, is just that I like left people like feeling that sense of love, feeling light, feeling hope. Um, yeah, I would say
That's a
that.
beautiful legacy and a beautiful gift that you have. And I think about your story and just these few minutes that we've shared together and how I don't even like dwelling on this or thinking about it, but how you're in a place where that could have been like snuffed out
Yeah.
and how important your voice is, how important your journey is and your story and your life and what you're doing for other people because of your experiences. And had you given up, none of this would have been possible. And I just think that you're an incredible person. Your story is amazing. I'm so grateful you took the time to speak with me and to tell a little bit about it. I can't wait to read your book. I have my story sitting in the drawer, waiting for the right moment to publish, but I did write it. And you were right. Everyone has a story. And that's why I started the podcast, is because even if no one listens, if one person listens, it's just really important that that person gets to tell their story.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this. I really felt inspired and I felt like it was the right thing to do. And the Inspiring Children's Foundation is very near and dear to my heart. It's influenced my children and our lives immensely. And so I'm so grateful. Do you have anything else you'd like to share or that you would like to say?
I'm just so grateful like that we got to have this conversation and I've like gotten to meet quite a few of your children through ICF and they're also just amazing people and shine so brightly and I think that's a testament to you. I
Yeah.
think we are, I'm so grateful every day. Like even though my parents like, had their struggles, we all do. No person is perfect, but I'm really like grateful for my parents too because like who I am now like wouldn't have been possible without them. So I see
Good
that.
and bad, right? Good and bad. You're who you are because of the good and the bad. Like
Yeah.
it's made you. And I love that you've really embraced that and that I just get the sense that you're at peace with your life, that you just have peace within you. And maybe it's not always there, but you've really done a lot of work and you're so powerful at a young age. And you truly inspire me and I know those around you. Thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on Lipstick and Legacy.
Hey, thanks for having me.